WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. So many different ways to watch and listen to Wake Up Call Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I appreciate every single one of you that takes the time to take the time. And of course, after you watch and listen live, you can always check it out in the archives, available instantaneously on MixLR and on YouTube. Also available to you as an archive on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Podbean celebrates over 1,500 episodes of Wake Up Call by going to WakeUpCallDT.com, WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So make sure you check that out. You just heard from Rob Drummond as we are celebrating Sean Tucker this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. He deserves the celebration. He deserves the appreciation. I have said it, and I'll say it again because I'm going to bring Jerome Smith on here in a second. I have been asking Dino to run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Why? Because what does it do? It condenses the clock. It demoralizes the defense. It puts you in a situation where you have some control over the game. You systematically can push and push. And think about that. Yeah, you have a ball go over the top of one of your DBs and you give up a touchdown. That stinks, okay? But when you have a 5-minute drive and your heels just keep getting pushed, and before you know it, you're in the back of your end zone, that to me is something that does something different. Running the ball and getting those yards, grinding it out, it moves you downfield. It takes more time off the clock, and it makes you be in a situation where you shrink that game to a point where they don't have a lot of opportunities. Teams have done it against Syracuse successfully. Duke, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, and on and on and on and on. Last season, that's what everybody did. Liberty did it, Duke did it, North Carolina did it. Sam Howell didn't look like any type of a Heisman hopeful last year for North Carolina. They brought in Javonte Williams in the second half and just threw the ball at him. Run it, run it, run it, run it. And he did, successfully. And I kept thinking to myself, how does Syracuse not take the secret sauce that's used against them and use it for themselves? And here comes Sean Tucker. And I'll paint a little story before I bring this man on the show that I consider a good friend. Somebody that I honor and I appreciate. Someone that I called 3 words Jerome when he was at Syracuse. Because when the camera came on and all the media beehive was around him, he would be very short. Then the cameras would go off and he would come stand with me next to a pole and would be laughing, repping, talking about all kinds of stuff. I appreciate our relationship and I appreciate our bond. I appreciate his confidence and his care in me and his trust in me. And I would like to hope that that's never gone in any way, shape, or form in the wrong direction, because I've always tried to honor Jerome as I do every player. Jerome Smith in his time at Syracuse ran for 2,219 yards. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry. He had 16 touchdowns overall rushing, and he had 1 receiving to go with 161 yards receiving as well. In his season back in 2012, the last season that Syracuse was in the Big East, he carried the ball 227 times in 13 games for 1,171 yards, averaging 5.2 yards a carry. That was the last time Syracuse had a 1,000-yard back, was 2012. And we were in a position where you were kind of dancing with a decade that it's been since the last time a running back's done it. Now this morning, following the game on the road, a 41-36 win over Virginia Tech, I can now say that that decade mark in between is never going to happen, because Sean Tucker got to 1,000 yards and is now at 1,060. He now snaps almost a decade between him and Jerome Smith of not having a 1,000-yard back. And so it is my honor, my privilege, my duty that there should be nobody else on this show on the heels of that than Jerome Smith to celebrate the fact that the next brother in Syracuse history, the next piece of this Orange Brotherhood, has now come forward and can now say that he's a 1,000-yard back. And so, Jerome, it is so very awesome that I get to welcome you here to today's show, and that you and I finally get to say there's another 1,000-yard runner at Syracuse, and this guy's name is Sean Tucker. How we doing, Jerome?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Dan, man? I appreciate you bringing me on, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
always.
man. And like you say, man, this is a huge celebration, and obviously 17 of us have ever had the chance to do it. So man, it's a huge honor for that guy.
You know, and for you, Jerome, we talked about it before, and you've been clear. You said, I don't want to be the last guy. I don't want to hold on to this record, forever. I don't like that there's been almost 10 years in between. Let's go into that a little bit. That you've been, you're not selfish. That you wanted somebody else to do it. You didn't want to be known as the last Syracuse running back to do it.
Yeah, it was kind of twofold for me. So twofold. One part of it was when I was there, 2010, DeLon Carter was a 1,000-yard rusher. 2011, Antoine Bailey was a 1,000-yard rusher. So that was all I knew. That was the standard. That was the standard. If you were number one in that room, 1,000 yards was setting the mark, and then the next thing was going to a bowl game and winning games. And obviously, like I'm saying, once you get 1,000 yards rushing on the ground, they usually transferring and you guys are controlling the ball. You guys are really running the ball against other teams. You guys are probably winning games when you guys have 1,000-yard rushers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, were you surprised that in the Dino Babers era, when he came in and said orange is the new fast and yada, 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 were you surprised that there was never a commitment to the run? Was that something that maybe made you a little bit sad or kind of scratch your head that there wasn't really a commitment to run the ball in his first arguably 5 years, if not 4 years and some change?
I think it was something that, he had to just get going. I know he was known for the passing game and putting a lot of points up through the air. So, obviously it's something that every coach goes through, just figuring out what's best for your team. And obviously he's figured this deal out nowadays, and he's got a really good guy carrying the ball in the offensive line. And those guys have been doing a heck of a job making lanes for Sean. And shoot, it's been seeming to work out for him nowadays.
Sit here with Jerome Smith. I played for Syracuse 2011 to 2013 as a running back for the team in 2012. Had his 1,000-yard season. It was the last time Syracuse had a 1,000-yard back until Sean Tucker got there in 8 games here in 2021, achieving the feat on the opening drive of their game on the road in a victory over Virginia Tech this past weekend, which is also my birthday weekend. So I'd like to think that.
Man, happy birthday!
Thank you, man. So I would, I got to celebrate a little bit more in that respect, seeing that happen, and kind of surreal for me that you and I are friends. I respect Sean Tucker. And then to have my birthday and have the game that followed my birthday a couple days later, on my birthday weekend, that I got to see somebody achieve a feat that I didn't know if I was going to see anytime soon, and that it connects back to one of my buddies. To me, it was it was a different moment for me because I respect Sean. I love his story. I respect you. I love your story. And that, I got to kind of live in this world of like, hey, this is my birthday. This is exciting. I was wearing my 44 jersey in honor of another good friend of mine, Floyd Little. So, I mean, to me, I felt very spoiled this week. I don't know how next weekend's going to match up to this weekend, I guess is what I'm saying.
I got you. Yeah, man, I get to be a super fan for Sean. Obviously, being down here in his Baltimore area, he's a Baltimore kid. His high school is right over, probably about 5 minutes away from where the university is. So, shoot, man, I became a fan just watching them over there. And now, shoot, watching them play for the Orange, man, I become a super fan for him.
Yeah, and I love that. And I want to go into that a little bit deeper. Like, some guys, right, they got egos. And they're thinking, like, if there's no 1,000-yard back of the last 9 years, then everybody thinks about me. And it's all about me. It's all about Jerome. You just said, I'm a super fan of Sean Tucker. Why be so excited and so supported? And you had 1171 your season. Do you want him to have more than 1171 this season? Would you like to see him pass even that for you? Like, when you say you're a super fan, how do you choose to be a super fan instead of being selfish? And would you like to see him have more yards than you had?
Absolutely. Let's go win the Heisman. Let's go win the Heisman if we can. I mean, what that does for, obviously Syracuse football, in the university, that take us to the next level. Him having a chance and being in the conversation and being up for the Heisman, I know that'll help those guys out with recruiting. I know that obviously helps with team morale, obviously helps with the belief, that we're going to run the ball. Oh, man, I love it. I think it's a great idea. Man, keep running the ball, keep doing what he's doing. I think he's the first back in college football this year with 1,000 yards. All that stuff helps in recruiting, especially when you're recruiting bigs and O-linemen. Man, that's huge for us.
Yeah, and you just brought it up. Speaking here with Jerome Smith on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the Cafe Kubal studios. First 1,000-yard back this season in all of college football Division 1A, 130 teams, including the SEC and company, for those of you playing the home game. Sean Tucker, 1,060 yards rushing. Closest to him, Kenneth Walker III, who has, at this point, 997 rushing yards. Just to go down the line here a little bit to paint this picture for you. So you got Kenneth Walker, who is there with, I believe, Michigan State, 997. You got Bijan Robinson of Texas with 924. Lou Nichols III of Central Michigan with 915. Sincere McCormick of UTSA with 891. Mateo Durant of Duke, who played Syracuse last year, with 870. Tyler Algier of BYU, who is in a place right now where he has over 800 himself. Let's see here. Tyler has 866 for BYU. DeAndre Torrey of North Texas has 853. Brad Roberts of Air Force has 845. And BJ Baylor of Oregon State has 830. That's your top 10. So,
that's impressive.
It is impressive.
That's an impressive group.
It is.
That's an impressive group, man. Obviously, those first two dudes I'm big fans of. I like watching a big kid from Michigan State. Man, that's a heck of a group right there to be a part of.
Yeah, and as we look at these numbers, I mean, I think it's even more so awesome for Sean Tucker to look at this and say, okay, the closest person to him is almost 100 yards behind him. And then from 1 to 10, from him to BJ Baylor, he has 230 more yards than number 10. So he's not only number 1, but he is continuing to extend himself at this point, which has been incredible. And Jerome, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
That's huge for him.
So, for you, Jerome, to see what he has done and to see that Dino's finally committing to the run here, does it help you to, I don't know, kind of exhale the breath that maybe you inhaled a few years ago? I mean, to see that Syracuse is finally committing to run the ball again, does that help you have more peace? Does it help you to sleep at night a little bit better? That we're finally seeing, 4 yards in a cloud of dust as opposed to just trying to get on and off the field in 37 seconds?
It's definitely a lot better. Obviously, watching the games now has less frustration because, man, he's just busting runs. And obviously, Garrett's been making some plays from the quarterback position. So, man, it's been really cool to watch. He really hasn't had that excitement since Dungy was there.
Yeah, and with seeing this commitment to running the ball, I think it's important to state the fact that Sean Tucker, at best, was the fourth-string running back last season coming into the season. He was in a situation where Abdul Adams and Jarvion Howard were number 1 and 2, respectively. They opted out. And then Jawar Jordan Jr., who's transferred out of Syracuse after last season, he was the number 3 guy, and then was Sean Tucker. So there's the reality that we may have never seen this moment because Sean may have never gotten to the field behind Abdul, Jarvion, and Jawar Jordan Jr. There's the notion that if the pandemic doesn't happen, these guys don't opt out, and Jawar doesn't get injured, we don't even get to celebrate a Sean Tucker because he might have never played a down for Syracuse. Does that make it even more amazing, knowing that he's the first 1,000-yard back since you in 2012, knowing the fact that he was 4th on the depth chart?
Man, that's a sweet story. That's a sweet story, man. Man, it just teach you about the business, man. Roles are forever changing. And obviously hats off, and it's a testament to his hard work that he was ready when his number was called. Oftentimes guys aren't ready when it's time for their number to be called, but man, this guy answered the phone call, man. I'm excited for him, man. I know it's a lot of good things in his future, obviously for him and the team, but man, that's huge.
Are you
obviously knowing, because man, I've been in that situation. I've been the fifth string before. I know how it feels. I know some of the thoughts you go through, and some of the being a scout team back, and obviously battling through some of that stuff. That's huge for him now.
Jerome, go into your story a little bit here, and like you said, you know what it's like to be scout team. You know what it's like to be fifth string back. How. Knowing that Sean Tucker is the first 1,000-yard back since you, and he did it after being the fourth string running back, bring us into your story and how you rose and how you weren't just walking into Syracuse as a 4 or 5 star number one starter from day one. Bring me into that, because I would love to, because I think not only are you guys both 1,000-yard backs, but you have a similar success story where you were not a household name and you made yourself one.
Yeah, well, man, coming in as a freshman, man, we had a deep room. We had a really good room. We had DeLon Carter, he was our starter. Antoine Bailey, Tyson Gully, Avon Collier. That was some of the guys that we had in that room. Obviously, we brought in probably 2 or 3 more guys with us. Steve Renee, and then obviously the next year came. The next year came as a sophomore. We brought in Adonis, and that was just another guy to the room. We brought in Adonis, and the year after we brought in George. So we constantly brought in really good running backs. And man, it was just kind of staying on course, believing in the process. Had some things go my way, some injuries happen, and had to step up for certain guys. And man, it just panned out and worked out for me. In a room full of really good running backs, and it was really a competitive room every year I got there. Or every year there, man, we brought in somebody that was going to push the room to the next point. And the really good thing for us, man, we had a really good running back coach, Coach Wheatley, and obviously Coach Smith that last year. But they made the room compete with each other, and we also made ourselves compete with each other. So it was a really good room for those 4 years there.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you had to get there, man. I mean, you had to literally go through the trenches, and you had to earn your keep. Sean Tucker, he from 4th string to starter, 5th string for you to starter, scout team to starter. I mean, how cool is that to see those parallels between you and Sean? That not only are you both 1,000-yard backs and you share that brotherhood together, like you said, 17 to do it in the history of Syracuse, but the fact that you guys both did it as players that could have given up. You could have transferred. You could have said, "This isn't. I'm too low on the depth chart. I'm not getting the playing time." Just what it means to you to know that you both came from a place where you didn't even show up on the weekly depth chart at certain points.
Oh man, it's one of those things that, man, I feel where he's coming from. Man, just keep that chip on his shoulder. And everything, it'll pan out for him. The odds, the chips will fall on his lap, and he'll have the opportunity to hopefully play at the next level and be able to take care of his family that way. But man, I'm excited for the kid. It's a huge accomplishment. Just keep fighting, don't lose his hunger, man. He'll be good.
Here with Jerome Smith, 2011 to 2013 running back for Syracuse. Here this morning with us, coming on the heels of Sean Tucker becoming the first 1,000-yard back since Jerome did it back in 2012 with 1,171. Jerome, for you, I'm gonna tell you this, because you talked about Sean hopefully getting an opportunity in the NFL in the future. You had an opportunity with the Atlanta Falcons. I remember to this day watching Hard Knocks and sitting there and having you in the room when they were talking to you and made the decision to release you. And I still to this day am like that. That's one of the moments that made me want to cry. I was upset, I was frustrated, but hindsight 2020, I'm gonna be real with you. Them Atlanta Falcons need you now, bro.
For sure, man. It was one of those deals. Obviously, when you get into this business, you know it can happen. And shoot, about a week later, they re-signed me, and I spent the season there, and I spent another half a season there, so it worked out. Had an opportunity to learn from some really good people, and had built some really good relationships. So, man, it worked out.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that you never gave up, you never gave in. Now you're training young minds there and young hearts, young bodies. Young souls? What can you tell me about the job that you have right now and how you're paying it forward? Not just being 1,000-yard back for your history in college, but that you're trying to create the next 1,000-yard back where you're at, and obviously trying to build that room up.
Yep. So nowadays I'm coaching running backs at Morgan State down in Baltimore. And like you said, man, the next goal is getting these guys to understand 1,000-yard rusher, what a 1,000-yard rusher does for your team, what it does for the program, what it does for your room. And we haven't had one here since 2014, and that's the last time they won the conference. So hopefully, I hope guys can be able to correlate the two together for me. When you win and when you're winning, you're able to run the ball. Or when you're running the ball, you're able to win some games, man. And I'm a firm believer just in that correlation. Just thinking back to our best years, even at Syracuse, and when you look around college football, when you can run the ball, man, those are some of the better teams in college football.
And do you feel like you have somebody in your room right now that's capable of doing that? How would you describe the running back room that you have right now at Morgan State in Baltimore?
Dan, I got a couple of these guys, man. Maybe 3 or 4. I got a really good room. It's really competitive. And day in and day out, these guys compete their tails off, and they know the expectations. And they know it don't just happen. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the extra film. You got to make sure you condition. You got to make sure you take care of your body to be able to run for 1,000 yards and play in all 12 games or 11 games or however many games you play in. So, man, it's a process to it, and these guys are constantly learning the process and getting themselves ready for it.
Yeah, and can you name some of these guys for the people that don't know? I'd love to get some names out here early so we can track them.
Oh, man, I got a couple young guys, Alfonso Graham, Jabril Johnson, Damon Hamler, Kristen Riley Richardson. I got an H-back guy, Romello Kimbrough. He can carry the ball, catch the ball in the backfield. He's doing a pretty good job this season for us. So those are some of the guys that come off the top of my head. Obviously being able to be in that race and competing. And there's some young guys coming up, and they'll be in a fight. And some guys we recruiting that maybe none of those guys have a chance. Maybe the guy we recruit has the chance to do it the next 3 or 4 years. So, man, they know we always going to roll with the hot hand. We always going to play the best football player here.
Yeah, and Jerome, you not only are the running backs coach there at Morgan State, but the coach ahead of you that is overseeing this entire team is a former very successful collegiate and NFL running back, Tyrone Wheatley. What is it like to go out on the recruiting trail having you and Wheatley on the staff? A guy in Tyrone who's had so much success, and a guy in you that's had a ton of success, and you could talk about being 1,000-yard back, and you could talk about going to bowl games, winning bowl games, and so what is it like to have not one but both of you guys on the same staff? And would you rather just put 11 running backs out there on offense?
Man, it's awesome. It's truly awesome, man. It's truly been able to bounce your ideas or anything you think you've been able to bounce it off of him. But obviously, when it comes to recruiting, we're pretty much going to get running backs that we want, obviously, because we're going to run the ball. You're going to be coached by 2 guys that played in NFL, did really well in college. He was obviously a running back coach in NFL for the past 8 years. See Leonard Fournette starting to do some taking off. So once we start talking about Leonard, that usually helps us out a little bit more. But, man, it's awesome, man. He's just always spilling knowledge down to me. he can always give you a story about something, man. He has tons of story, tons of knowledge, man. He's just a great dude to be around, great dude to come work for every day. Man, I couldn't ask for a better boss.
Jerome Smith here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios on the heels of Sean Tucker becoming the first 1,000-yard back at Syracuse since Jerome did it in 2012 with 1,171 yards. It was imperative for me to have Jerome on the show today and to celebrate bridging that gap and finally seeing it happen for the Orange is something I knew means a lot to Jerome and is something that he wanted to see. Rome, before I let you go, you wore number 45 at Syracuse. Did you wear 45 because you couldn't wear 44? I mean, did you want to be as close as possible? What's the story behind 45? And do you feel that you got to make 45 matter at Syracuse?
So I wore one in high school. I wore number 1 in high school, and the whole goal was to just be a little bit better than some of those people that wore 44. To chase that, to be able to be a little bit better than those guys that wore 44. Nothing wrong with those guys are obviously the GOATs and the legends, but as being a young guy, wanting to prove my point, wanting to make a splash, wanting to be one step ahead of those 44. And obviously, that had a reason you couldn't wear the number 44.
If they had offered you 44 at Syracuse, would you have worn it?
Who's to say they didn't offer it already, Dan? All right, so going into that last year, had a couple talks with the late great Floyd and a couple other people over at the school, and it started to create a buzz on if I wanted to wear it. That was one of those things that I wasn't big on wearing it. I thought, man, I had so much respect for it. So much of our program was built off of the number 44, and man, I just thought leaving it up in the Raptors was the best thing for it. So it didn't become a me show. It came, it was an all-around team thing that we believed in number 44. And obviously I've had the chance to, sit and walk and talk with the late, great doggone Floyd Little and having the opportunity to talk to Jim Brown and obviously be in the room with those guys. Man, I just had so much respect for it that, man, I just thought it should stay up in those Raptors. And I do think nowadays in college football and where it's going and kind of the things that Sean's accomplishing, I do think he's a guy that should be considered to wear it. But I do think it should be like some type of committee or some type of it's got to be some type of process to it.
I brought up in the Virginia Tech Syracuse post game with my guy Isaac Elford, who's co-hosting with me. I said that, in my opinion, and him and I were both in agreement on this, that there should be at least the representation on a committee for 44 of Jim Brown, of Ernie Davis's family, and probably Deborah Little, Floyd Little's wife. Would that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Because those dudes stood for some really great things, and man, like I said, as long as it's a process to it, and we look at it diligently, so we don't change the importance of the number 44 for our program and everything it stood for when I was there, and obviously moving forward, I think it should be a process to it.
So you were offered number 44.
Absolutely.
And how long? Bring me in. What was the process like for you? I want to know what did you have to go through? And when did they come to you? How did they come to you? And what was the process like?
It was going into the first year in the ACC. Obviously, it was just, Floyd would ask me, would I be interested? And, I had a couple other people talk to me, was it something I wanted to do? And if I'm not mistaken, there might be some news out on it. I'll send it to you. But, yeah, just ask me what I wanted to do. Obviously, school was taken care of. Obviously, I never had any off-the-field issues or had anything that would blemish the 44 name and number. But it just got to a point, and I just said I didn't want to do it. So, obviously, they stopped moving forward with it. And the next year, I declared for the draft. So.
But you spoke with Floyd Little and Jim Brown about it.
Floyd, yes, sir.
And what did you take away? What did Floyd say? What did Jim say? Like what was that experience like? Were you with them in person? Were you on the phone? I mean, obviously Floyd was there, but like, were you on the phone with Jim? Did you see Jim in person?
With me and Floyd, it was in person, and he asked me, did I want to wear the number? And he probably asked me maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe, and I gave the same answer every time. I just had so much respect for him, man. He was such a good dude, and call you, come sit down, come get a Pepsi out of my office. Come sit down, and you drink a Pepsi with him and talk a little bit. But yeah, that's as far as I let it go. I didn't want it to go any further. I was focused on the season and trying to get to a bowl game, and then obviously knowing I wanted to be a pro the next year. I didn't hold too much weight to it, but yeah, man.
What was it like with Jim Brown? Did you talk to him on the phone, or what was that like?
No, I actually hadn't had a chance to talk to Jim about it. Like I said, kind of me and Floyd, we kind of had those conversations and started to, then my name started getting a little bigger, started getting some preseason awards, so things started to pick up for me. And me and Floyd started having the talks about it. And then, the media kind of started to get into it, and people started to ask more questions.
So you wear number 45. Looking back on it, do you regret not wearing 44? Are you happy you wore 45? How do you see it?
No, I love the choice I made. Like I said, the number 44 wasn't about me. It was about our program. I truly believe that was everything we did, from our intro videos to the way our uniforms were at a 44-degree angle. That was the program. I didn't want it to be about me. I'm good. I enjoyed it. I love the number 45. Obviously, one of the greats that wore it before me, Art Monk, having a chance to hear and speak with him, and he's an NFL Hall of Famer. Obviously, him coming back and talking to the program, man, that makes you super proud of the number 45.
What did he say to you? Did he talk to you about it?
Zaire wore Art. He just let me know that was a great number I was wearing, and I'm gonna wear it with pride.
And you said obviously Zaire wore 45 too. What would it mean to you? Do you think like kind of paving that way? If a kid came up to Syracuse and said, "I want to wear 45 because Jerome wore it," and I'm a running back and I want to show what I could do. What would that mean to you to have that? Because I was thinking about that with Sean Tucker, that what if he just keeps 34 and 10 years down the road some kid comes to Syracuse because he wants to be like Sean?
That would be awesome. That would be cool. And that's what it's all about, creating your own lane and legacy for what you left behind. And Zaire, obviously, Zaire was one of those kids, when he wore 45, he told me he wore 40. He let me know that he was going to be wearing 45 next year, and he was the next 45. I was excited for him. Man. Obviously, he moved on and got single digit on me. But it was pretty cool to have such a good football player like him come and wear the number after me.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, and for you to be a part of this history, just to be regarded, like you said, it was about the program. You didn't want it to be about you. You respected those guys that came before you, the Floyd Littles, the Jim Browns, the Ernie Davises. To just be somebody that was offered that number, and knowing that we haven't seen it in so long, since Rob Conrad, I think back in '99, for you to be offered that so many years later, even though you didn't wear it, is the honor in being offered it, so to speak? You know what I mean? Like, whether or not you wore it, but the fact that they would actually consider unretiring it for you, what weight does that hold to you, that they even came to you and said, Jerome, you're worthy of it, in their opinion?
I think that's probably the most humbling part of it all, that you were even in the conversation of it. And that's the pretty cool part for me. I can always tell people, shoot, I was in the conversation for it. Whether you believe me or not, man, I was in the conversation for the same number as Jim, Ernie, and Floyd. So it's a tremendous honor, man. It's a really cool deal.
And if Sean was offered the number 44 to change his number from 34 to 44, what would you say if he called you? If he said, "Hey, Rome, you got offered this number. I just got offered this number. We're both 1,000-yard backs at Syracuse. We're the last two guys to do it. Should I wear it?" What would you say to him?
Do it. Do it. I think. Like I said, during that time period, the 44 number and the legacy and how much of our program was built around 44, it would have kind of taken away from being a team player, in my opinion. But because their program because their uniforms aren't 44-degree angles anymore, those things aren't really the pregame or the intro video isn't about the number 44 anymore. I think it's totally different. I think he should. I think he's doing some incredible things. And like I said, being the first guy to 1,000 yards, these guys are winning big games in the ACC right now. The program needs it. I'll be excited for him. I hope he does.
Final point here. What's the best part of Sean Tucker's game? Being a running back, what do you love seeing him do on tape?
He is explosive through the line of scrimmage. One thing you see about him when he's going through the line of scrimmage, he's 1,000 miles an hour. He's 1,000 miles an hour. He can make cuts. He has really good feet. He can make cuts on a drop of a dime. He's a tough kid, man. He's a really good running back. I'm looking forward to watching him for the next few years.
That coming from Jerome Smith here in Syracuse Orange football history. Last player to get to 1,000 yards, 1,171 yards from scrimmage on the ground alone back in 2012. And now Sean Tucker with 1,060 and counting through 8 games. Rome, as always, I appreciate it. I thank you. And as I said in my post-game show, that man knows it, and he could share it with Sean, but I'm sure Sean knows the hay is truly never in the barn.
That's a fact. Never in the barn, brother.
I appreciate you, man, and I thank you so much. You and I will be talking this week and keeping in touch with each other, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you've been in my life. You're far more than a running back to me, and I appreciate you, and I thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say let's see what Dak and them boys got to do coming up here out of the bye week. So
yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon. And congratulations on everything you've done and coaching now and all that you bring toward it. And I really hope that you and I get some FaceTime sometime here soon. It'd be great to see you.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
All right. Take care.
All right, Dan.
See you. That coming from Jerome Smith once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Offered the number 44. So Jerome knows what it's like. He can actually speak to it because it's happened, because he got the chance. So very, very cool and very much appreciate that. And there's going to be plenty to come from that because I'm going to have to share that with the world 10 times over, the conversation we just had. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, you will meet the newest members of the American Athletic Conference right after this, following their big news that happened on my birthday, which was really, really cool, and a birthday surprise I never thought I would get. Very excited to speak with you on UAB, Rice, North Texas, as well as FAU, UNC Charlotte, and UTSA right after this.
Have a Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying. In the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com.